Okay, this is MythicMobs. Your questions answered number 2. It's a case study too, I suppose. The question is, that I got from the forum, is how to cause slime splitting to not occur. So, if we look to the Bible and put in prevent slime split, it gives us nothing. Well, that's probably because we didn't toggle the search tools. So if you actually open up, there is a toggle search tools button, and the one that we're going to want is the contains one, which will broaden our search terms. Because by default, I believe it's an exact match, and nothing in the manuals is exactly prevent space slime space split. So putting in contains will give us results as expected. So if we look into change logs, what I found is that this option, prevent slime split option, actually has been fixed as of version 4.9.1, and it was bugged for some time. And so as of MythicMobs version 4.9.1, prevent slime split option has been fixed, and it was bugged for some time, but can a workaround be used if this bug ever returns? So let's take a few steps back. Number 1, we're going to list some assumptions. Number 2, we're going to brainstorm some vanilla mechanics. And number 3, we're going to search the Bible, the manual. So here are our assumptions. The mob type will be a slime or a magma cube. And slime and magma cube will split upon death because they do in vanilla if big enough. Is there anything else that we need to assume? In my opinion, not really. We can move on with this. So here's a workaround. Let's go ahead and brainstorm some vanilla mechanics so we know what happens already. So go ahead and think about what happens when the slime dies and list these events out. And remember that we are assuming it does split. We're not doing the case of where it does not split yet, since we're trying to prevent that. And that's essentially my next question. What would we like to happen? So go ahead and set a timer for 30 seconds or so. Should be fine, and come back to the video once you have a list made. Okay, I'm going to assume that you went and did that timer thing. If you didn't, then whatever, I suppose. Here's what I came up with. How it normally works, vanilla-wise, is that number 1, the slime will die. And 2, a random number of smaller size slimes will spawn in its place. How we want it to work, however, is that the slime dies and no slimes are spawned in its place. So let's think a little bit more before consulting the Bible. No slimes are spawned in its place. How can we exactly do this? The smaller children slimes that get spawned need to be killed, removed, or non-existent. So go set a timer, 1 minute or so, and search the manuals for the things that we're looking for to prevent those children's slimes from spawning in. Okay, I'm going to assume that you went ahead and did that, so let's move on. Welcome back, and I have this. Mechanics. Remove and suicide. Targeters at mobs in radius, living entities in radius, and entities in radius, and triggers on death. So how do I know what to find? The mechanics I feel are pretty self-explanatory. There's the remove or suicide component, which corresponds to how we want the children's slimes to behave. We don't want them to exist, they want to be removed. The targeters and triggers may not be so, and so let me explain that. Targeters allow MythicMobs to specify what to target. In this case, the children's slime will spawn somewhat near the death of the parent slime, so all the mobs in radius, or entities in radius, those kinds of targeters will work exactly what we want. We want to target slimes within a certain radius of the parent slime's location when it dies. The trigger condition specifies at what event / time should our mechanics happen, hence the on death of our original slime. So when the parent slime dies, upon its death, the children's slime will be removed. So can we use remove or suicide? So looking to the Bible, we see that the mechanic suicide will instantly kill the mob. There is no target mechanic and will only affect the casting mob. And then we look to remove, and it says removes a target entity from existence, does not work on players. In this case, if we can't specify a certain mob, then targeter is completely useless. So suicide would have to go, and remove would have to be the one that we're going for. Alright, so here's a high-level overview. Number 1, the parent slime is going to die. Number 2, the children's slime will spawn in its place. And number 3, the children's slimes will need to be removed as soon as they spawn. Easy stuff, right? There is a little bit of an issue here. The children slime that spawn in aren't mythic mobs, unless you somehow make a workaround to that too. So how would we be able to remove them when they spawn? And it should be noted that only a mythic mob can run mythic mob code. So what would this mob need to be like? We're assuming that these slimes that spawn out of the parent slime, the children's slime, are vanilla. They're not mythic mobs. We cannot run skills on them necessarily. Or I should say, they cannot run skills on themselves. They are vanilla mobs. There is no plugin interaction. So what would a mob like this have to be then to kill these other slimes? The mysterious slime killing mob overview. So it has to be near the children's slime when they spawn, be invisible so the removal looks as seamless as possible, and it has to remove itself after removing the children's slime. And what the hell is this miraculous mob, you may ask? A dummy armor stand. Armor stands are dummies slash behind the scenes invisible guardians of many mythic mob shenanigans. I've used them plenty for particle effects. They are amazing things because players can't even see them if you choose the right mob options. So there I have linked all the mob options where you can find where armor stands apply. It should be noted that there are two conditions or options I can see: can move and can tick require paper spigots. So if you're not using that, those will not work. But other than that, everything should be fine. So what are the available options that we're going to be using? Well, we're going to need the armor stand to be invisible, so it looks as seamless as possible. Has gravity set to false in the event that the parent slime dies midair and it just spawns children's slimes midair. And markers is an interesting option. So according to the manual, as the picture shows on the right, what of the armor stand should be a marker? Setting this option to true will prevent the armor stand from being destroyed in the game, making it completely non-interactable. So as of making this video, I have not tested whether or not the remove mechanic actually works on this marker, but I'm going to assume it does because I have used it before in the past. I believe you set something as a marker, it just means that a player cannot punch it out of existence. It cannot die of anything else or destroyed. It can, however, be removed with the remove mechanic, I believe. So moving on, our high level overview times 2, going back to it. Number 1, parent slime dies. Number 2, children's slime spawn in its place. Remember, these are assumed to be vanilla mobs. Number 3, the dummy armor stand also spawns in its place. Remember, this is a mythic mob, so we can use mythic mob code on this. And number 4, upon spawning in, the dummy will remove any nearby slimes. This will kill all the children's slime. This will kill the children's slime if they somehow die for some reason, maybe fall damage. Kill any slimes near the dummy, which is near the parent location of its death. And number 5, after removing said slimes, the dummy will despawn / remove itself. It'd be terrible if the server was just polluted with a bunch of armor stands that never went away. That caused plenty of lag on some extent. So remember this list at the very beginning? We're going to go ahead and change that. Cross these out because we already determined we don't need them. Living entities in radius and entities in radius, I'm not exactly sure why there are certain things. Maybe entities refers to armor stands which are not non-living. But in this case, I've always used mobs in radius, so that should be completely fine. A slime is a mob for sure. And we're going to go ahead and add summon, which is a mechanic allowing to spawn in that dummy armor stand. Also very useful for summoning other things. It's literally to spawn in anything that you want with respect to another mob. And another trigger, on spawn. So upon spawning the dummy, it will remove itself after some time, and it will also kill all the slime near it. So here's some pseudocode to get you started. So starting from the top, we're going to assume that this is in your vanilla mobs file, thus no mob type needs to be specified. This is the slime. Notice how it's all capitalized. Vanilla mobs will always have all capitalized internal mob names. And the skill, so I'm not going to type it for you, but here's the pseudocode for you. You're going to summon a dummy slime killer as close to the parent slime when parent dies. You can do that by setting the summon radius option. If you go look to the manual, by setting the radius to 0, this will set it exactly where the parent slime had died. The dummy armor slime killer may need to be in a separate YAML file because it's not a vanilla mob. It is a mythic mob, so you may need to put it in a different file. Anyhow, I've gone ahead and filled out the options for you. Being nice and not invisible set to true, has gravity is false, marker is true, and here are the skills that are going to run. Remove all slimes in the appropriate radius upon a dummy spawning in. So maybe a radius of 2 or 3 should make sense. I've never seen children's slime spawn like 5 blocks away or 4 blocks away. And then you're going to want another skill for the dummy to remove itself after an appropriate delay. So if you look at the remove mechanic on the manual, there is an option, or I guess called an attribute, where you put into the curly brackets of delay. You can specify the delay in ticks. And remember that delays are in ticks. So 20 ticks is 1 second. Do the math. You can figure it out how you want to. How soon you want the dummy to remove itself after killing all the slimes around it. And as for the first skill, you're going to want to kill the slimes as soon as possible. So maybe run it after maybe 5 ticks, so like 1/4 of a second, and kill all the slimes around. Depends how seamless you want, depends if the server's lagging or not. Just work around with that. Alright, so I want to thank Jack the Bot, hashtag 0719, for asking on this topic. I want to apologize for getting this out so late. I've been really busy, been doing stuff and whatnot. Just decided to draft this up and get the video out. I hope you learned it in case the prevent slime split option ever breaks again. The MythicMobs dev is very busy with a bunch of bugs, so if this ever does return, you might be able to use this workaround. And to you, the viewers, for watching, and to PowerPoint for letting me be lazy with choosing design ideas for this presentation's content. You may have noticed how disorientingly ugly the theme became. I was just going through it. So yeah, if you got more questions, go ahead and head to the link bit.ly. MythicMobs survey is the form to fill out and ask any questions. Also comment below if you want to see a boss making series and give suggestions on what you would like to see in the boss. You could also do that on the forum. I figure like I should also get some interactivity with the comment section below. I can make a boss. It depends how in-depth we're going to make this boss and what skills it's going to have. We can have meteors, we can have lightning storms, we can have particle designs. There's a lot of shit to make.